Is that working fine? They're off. Okay, cool. Okay, that should be working. Let's screw with all the settings for the clipping and stuff, so that might mess me up. That sound okay? Okay, we'll go with that. There you go. Okay, I know ads are going to start, but that's fine. Okay, so last night we got the conflict working. So what we need to do, um, um, we'll see where ads go. But yeah, I'm going to review the screen. And um, okay, so we added the validators in. We know that they now work. They work in a very strange way in that every command, um, it doesn't make sense to me that every breakpoint hit. That is a little concerning for me in terms of validators. To me, that would mean that um, we're getting errors, or something is um, yeah. So on this one, we can only accept that command. So why this construct? It's a constructor, I suppose. It constructs the rules, not the actual. It doesn't validate. Okay, that makes more sense. He's constructing the validators to put together. That makes sense. Okay. Um, I forgot they were constructors because it builds them all at the beginning of the application. I really wish it didn't do that. I really wish it did it as part of the pipeline and constructed them on the fly, because that would make more sense to me, at least. But okay. But we do have the validation there now. So we do have the uh, ability to um, ensure that you have to have the valid fields to get into that. What I'm asking right now is I'm going to Claude and saying, hey, on the client side of that, I want to pop up a warning to say, we, it failed to validate, so we couldn't save it. Um, Actually, on the database side, I need to do some cleanup. Oh, this would have published everything as well. Everything here will be. We might be introducing delete tasks, uh, just to allow us to clean this up properly. In fact, that might actually be what I do today, because it's a little simpler than everything else I need to do. But we shall see. So I learned that to have mediator source generators work properly, the library that I'm um, the application I'm starting has to have the source generator. The library that I'm using mediator in can have the abstractions. No, no, mediator abstractions, and that's fine. But the API project, or in the case of where I have services, those projects need to have um, the abstractions. But the weird thing is, no, not the weird thing. This now brings about, I probably do need to do architecture tests, because it's actually possible for me to forget to put a mediator. Um, See, I don't have the source generator there, which means if I have something that comes in from the view, I mean, in this case, it doesn't do it, but which one has, one of them has a service, I think. The planning? No, maybe not. So if I have services that also enter into those things, so let's say planning needs to respond to things happening in tasks, which is actually coming soon. We do need to have these two be aware of things that are happening in each other, right? In those cases, I have to have that source generator in those projects as well. Otherwise, the validators don't apply, which means that I could have um, uh, if this says, "Hey, create a task on something happening," or vice versa, those validators wouldn't apply, but the validators matter just as much, so I can still make the mistake. There's that thing there, so I probably do need to put some architecture tests in to make sure that things are included properly. Maybe good morning or good afternoon. Want to see the world burn. Um, I really should just use a key light. A weird shadow. My room is dark. I'm just waiting for Claude to finish doing what it's doing before I actually proceed. Um, do 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 do. So what I told Claude before was, hey, look, I could have a validation error occur on the server. Uh, I don't want to proceed with adding the task. I do want you to tell the user there's an error. What in today is we are going to try and get the um, we're going to try and get the task associated with the project and try and implement a solution for how we're going to get the next sequential ID for the tasks associated project. And that is moving towards Grumpy. Thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in. Hope you are well. Graham, hello. Thank you very much for the raid. It's your start of the day, so appreciate it. How was your stream? What did you get up to today? And Dev, hello. Put deep sinks into my dungeon crawler. Nice. Rinse the filthy rags. That's important. Yeah. You want to be able to clean your filthy rags and clean up that dungeon. So deep sinks are important. Yeah. That was about right for you. Nice. Clean up after the hero. Okay. That makes sense. Is that a jam that you're doing? Or is a jam? Right. The theme kind of, yeah, okay. That's awesome. I'm not doing anything as interesting as that. I'm doing more over engineering and waffling. So as is the way. Okay, we'll wait for that to start up and then. So I'm going to test it with the validation there. Is the way, yes. And see that the pop up appears the way it's set. So I basically said to Claude, "Hey, I want to when I get a conflict back from the server, I want to notify the user, but I don't want them to be able to create again. Um, and this is something that shouldn't really happen, but this will catch it." Um, or the um, and I asked it to if I had a better UX pattern to propose that first, and it found no other better UX pattern. So that was funny. It implemented what I've asked it to. Last night was a whole lot of faffing because I was held up by validators. So I learned that when I'm adding a task, I have a validator here that makes sure that everything is intact, right? Because I'm using Mediator and I'm using Mediator to apply the validators. Um, Catch it. Um, because I'm using Mediator, I had the Mediator library included in the application, which is fine. You can still add Mediator. All the methods are available to you. That's fine. But the source generators don't work. Well, being my validators are registered in here, right? I had to have the mediator.source generator here and abstractions here. But if you're not using validators, having the abstractions alone here is enough. Oh no, I have the source generator in here. Sorry. So that having the source generator in here is enough, which makes for a really confusing uh, path. So I'm kind of contemplating architecture tests now to make sure that those are always valid because it doesn't tell you the validators aren't firing. So either I put in some level of, by the way, the no validators, or um, I kind of make it part of the architecture. So that was a lot of faffing. Faffing was done. Uh, so So what I've been doing the last couple of weeks is trying to move towards delivery in Kaizu, taking the planning, the initiatives, the planning, the implementation stuff, and taking it through to delivery. But to get there, I need to tighten up some of the implementation pieces. So when I have uh, tasks, which now seemingly aren't working, that's interesting. When I have tasks, uh, these need to have unique identifiers so that I can kind of trace them. I can attach GitHub, etc. So this phase of the application will include GitHub integration, and will then link an action to a GitHub link. Um, so when I add a task, I can add a title, I can add a description, and because of the way I've pivoted the data here, um, you can't get a project identifier until you assign it to a project, right? So there's no project identifier possible. Um, so when I assign a team, then I can assign a project that team works on. Um, it probably will flip at some point where I select the project and then I select the team, which would make more sense. Um, so then when I create this, I'm not passing this value right a second. So now this should error, and that didn't error. That added the blinking task. Nothing quite like a good demo fail. Not saying that field, that should have returned a 405, a 504, because that should have said, you know what, that's not valid. Nope, didn't even get there. That was working consistently at end of stream yesterday, so that's an interesting one. Um, so the concept here is that the validator fires before this gets hit. So this code is minimal. It's just the create, right? It knows that the validator should be wrapped around it. That's the concept that I'm going for, and that's how I like that. So it avoids having a lot of guard code in this handle method, and it means that if we are using mediator properly, anywhere that calls this is doing that. Ashes Valves, thank you very much for the raid. Appreciate it. Welcome in. How was your stream? And apologies, I didn't. I am very bad at the shout-outs. I'll have to shout out Grumpy first. Grumpy just raided, so if you're not following Grumpy Game Dev, highly recommend it. It's a good place to go and hang out. Writes lots of interesting games, and I will give Ashes out a shout out shortly. So I do apologize for my ordering of shout outs. Was good. Wrapped up something that I was just slogging through, so it feels good to get out the other end. Oh, I that feels that feels very familiar. I've been slogging through. Why won't my code build the way I expected to build the last couple of hours? Last night on stream and then this morning. Phobos, hello. How you doing? Um, yeah. So I'm cold and hot, paradoxical. Those are always confusing feelings to go through, or confusing. Yeah. So, uh, welcome in, Raiders. I am working on Kaizu, which is my project management and planning application. It is a quite large application at this point where I have implemented so far the idea of initiatives. Um, Initiatives are the seeds of the idea and the kind of foundational components. And from there, you plan out deliverables, and deliverables are so executive, project management, developers, anyone who needs to be involved is basically the thread there. So a deliverable consists of requirements, and requirements can be tasked out. Um, a a task is a piece of work that can be what it needs to be. It can be technical. It can be assigned to whoever. A deliverable can consist of many tasks, many requirements spread across many teams. It kind of brings things together. Um, there's no, hey, this story requires DevOps and this story requires, whatever. This is a deliverable, and there's a task for DevOps and there's a task for developers, and they have to come together. Wow, camera looks different. Well, the light's not very good, and I'm wearing a light shirt, a light sweatshirt. Um, so yeah, the concept is that I do have boards implemented. So I do have Kanban, basic Kanban boards. I know there's sprint boards right now, but these are basic Kanban boards at this point. Um, what I'm aiming towards right now is getting to delivery. Right, I can refine all these things later, but I'm trying to get to the full flow through the application, so I can see it come together, and then I can go back and fix the components appropriately. Um, Again, the idea is that a deliverable has requirements, and requirements can be spread across many teams. So, yeah, and why that is failing consistently, I have no idea as well. That was working last week. That's Signal R, which now seemingly gave up. Going to fall to ashes. What's on React.tv? My brain froze. Yeah, how is my 5 stream streak saved? I don't know. You missed. If you do it within 24 hours of a stream, you can normally catch it. Yeah. Um, just sit. But you just sat perfectly still. I do that. I sit still. No delta. All streams are required. 3 streams a week. They're all required to be part of the club. Mandatory attendance. Okay, so um, um, oh, brain. This is what happens when you start a stream in the mornings, and you can't. Nothing seems to want to work. You're just all over the place. McNets, hello, good day. Um, let's. Do I want? I do need to fix this. I do need to validate this thing. So I don't think I changed anything post stream yesterday. Well, no, I didn't, because I went and took the dogs out. So um, we're getting a little bit too big on this now. These are all little changes for um, configuration. So that's why there's so many changes. Um, Tasks, configuration, mediator configuration. So we realize that we have to do this. We can't use my extension method, so that's fine. But we're adding the validator. Hmm. Um, I don't get what could be going wrong. That's the annoying thing here. Oh, by the way, yesterday I had an absolute nightmare getting the microphone working, so I had to use the microphone from my work computer. This morning, I plugged in the microphone, the wireless microphone, and it's working, which is just annoying. I didn't even reboot the computer. So, the stream started off that way yesterday and it just seemed to continue on. So, it was just a bunch of things that just didn't work. So the idea here is I add the fluent validation command preprocessor, and what this does is it puts a pipeline in place for any message that needs validation. That's just a signal interface, and it will um, it will then any command that implements I validate, it will test to see if it needs to go through this pipeline. And if it does, it will validate it by injecting the relevant validator. So it'll create an instance of this fluent validation command preprocessor and validate. This was happening last night. So this looks like the source generator is not working properly. Funny retro story. I thanked two colleagues. Those two colleagues then thanked the other two colleagues, taking some memeing on each other at work. Fair enough. That's not a bad thing. That's a team building thing. Yeah. See, dependency injection service descriptor inject create sprint. Right. So it's there. It's meant to be doing that. So let's build it again. First person I've used it on. So if you've not been in this stream before, I stream the development of this to talk about this. And so if there's questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, if you think it's ambitious, if you think it's wrong, if you think, you'd prefer to see it do a different thing, I'm open to conversation about it, right? So the stream is not necessarily about me getting code done. It's more about me being able to say, hey, here's an idea I'm working on, and here's how I'm doing it. So you're more than welcome to join in if you want to. And today looks like one of those days where a reboot of my computer. I'd love to give feedback, but your work is beyond my knowledge. Is it really? my 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 code drives you to drink? Oh no! Did this actually run, or did this fail? I think it failed. It outright failed. Restart that and see if it works. Hi Dan, how you doing? I'll also just sit here and drink coffee. I was hanging out with you on Monday. Um, Imagine how cool it'd be if I thought I'd made the NHL until like 17. I was never destined for sports. Okay, so let's refresh that and see. The signal thing being disconnected is annoying me because it is it was a lot of work to try and get that up and running, and it worked flawlessly during those two streams after. But now it's erroring on every single thing, and I don't know why. getting companies being like, "Hey, we love your profile. We want you to work with you," and then it's a job in London, and they need people in the office 3 days a week. Yes, yeah. Um, you want me to maybe stream? Maybe is also a great streamer. I recommend heading over there if you enjoy some software development and hot dogs. So, annual review today. Yeah, I'm getting fired. I can neither confirm nor deny that. Um, we're in my oppressive world now. Your language shall not get through. Um, leaking your annual review publicly, probably fired for that alone. Dear. Failed to complete negotiation status. Why is it a bad gateway? Wait, you're live. Hi, Darren. How you doing? Um, uh, Still think I didn't act thankful enough during an annual review, and now my annual reviews are less uplifting as a result. The point of a review is not necessarily for you to be thankful. I mean, if you're in a company that makes you want to be thankful for having a job, um, no, sorry, when I clicked on this stream, it wasn't live. What's going on here? I've been live for 33 minutes. I was slightly behind time. Validator not firing at all. Why? Um, my manager wrote a really nice review, and I focused on the negative. Balance. Um, Balance is what matters. Um, it's just how my stream is. It just feels like it's Groundhog Day. That's all. Things don't work. I'm struggling. It's fine. Um, or maybe AI is just taking the human out of the reviews. I don't know. I don't. Still not a big fan of that. Uh, the Groundhog totally saw his shadow. I was watching last night's streaming all over the place today. Practically is last night's stream because I'm starting where I left off. Um, I was just saying, oh well, this is fixed now, but now this isn't fixed. It's not working again, so I don't know why. Um, the idea here is when I have the mediator, I can add pipeline behaviors. This pipeline behavior filters anything that has I validate. The command on task has I validate, which means this one should get picked up as something that needs to be processed, and this validator should fire, but it is not. So I'm going to stop it again. Go over here. Now, I've got to believe this has something to do with source generators. What's the lifetime on media? Why does that matter? You don't have to explicitly set the lifetime on media. Everything becomes a singleton, by the way. Um, it's funny how that works, but I see what you're saying. The recommendation is mediator though, is a singleton in mediator. But it does work. Uh, that's new apparently. Um, what do I want to do here? I wanted to open Explorer. I want to, yeah, it does work. It's I've changed it to what? I've changed it to scoped a few times, and it makes things behave very strange. Why? Stony, hello. How you doing? That's unusual that the bin and object folders can't be. I really wish clean actually removed bin and object folders after all this time. Because it's what you want to have happen. I don't remember any time where I've not wanted that to happen. Every time I do this, it pops up different. Okay, so there's the obj. Done at 10. It keeps telling me the generated output should land here, and it doesn't. I'm not sure why. Intermediate, that's the output. I don't get why this would be breaking. Well, we'll give it one more go, and then we'll just fix the client code so that the data is intact, and then I can at least commit all this and move on. And then validators are going to have to be a thing. At the end of the day, it would be nice to use the pipeline behavior. That's really what I'm validating here, that the pipeline works properly. And the idea of the pipeline behavior is that you can apply layers in front of your um, in front of your handlers. So I can say, okay, well, or before or after, I suppose. But you can kind of put error handling, or you can put validation, like I'm doing in there. That's part of that design, is so that I can kind of keep validation separate from the actual command and trust that it gets invoked. The problem is if it's not working, it hits that and ignores the validation. I'd rather it crash than just not work, and that's a problem for me because it's um, should be working. My signaler isn't working, and blah 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 blah. You're going to save. No, I know it didn't work. I know it didn't work straight away. So I have that breakpoint there, and that's not hitting. That's frustrating. No, because I avoided looking at the internet most of the day. I saw. I got a short. Basically, I am that grumpy on April Fool's Day. If you put a video out that's just stupid, I, it's one of the few times I'll dislike a video on YouTube. So any shorts that came up, dislike, 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 thumbs down, don't like, no sense of humor. It's fine. I think with AI and stuff being what it is, it would um, it's so easy to make something look very realistic. So Imperial, hello. How you doing? Welcome in. As as yesterday. Maybe ate differently. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just getting a bit frustrated with some code right this second that's not behaving, but doing good overall. Welcome in. Um, so okay, let's just run this, and then we'll pass project identifier. We need to pass the project. I think is it associated project identifier? I'm expecting the endpoints tasks post. I'm not working on a game. I'm not a game dev. Assign project identifier. I am working on a project management application. Yet I'm not adding task. We all become Thanks, Imperial. Um, the plan is to build Jira, then use Jira clone to make a game. Yeah, we'll plan out our game. Yeah. No, I've long since realized I'm not a game dev. I'm neither smart enough or patient enough to do game dev. Like team. Um, let's do it that way. I think I don't like games enough. I like games plenty. I love games. I want to play more games, but um, renamed. We were never passing it in the first place. Let me just say it up front. I also do software dev. Nothing wrong with software dev. Is it as engaging as game dev? I don't know. There's more visual stuff in game dev. Although there's a lot of just drudgery in game dev, right? There's a lot of just wiring things up and long periods of time before you see something work. So each have their own things. This should. Hi, Connie. Here on time. We'll go with that. It's fine. Um, work. We should. If this fires validation now, I'm going to be upset. A task that has an assigned project. So again, the concept here is I can create this now. If I assign a team, I can't create this because I need to assign a project to that team. Where's the assigned project? Done. Renamed. Uh, we're having one of them days. Task.service. Add. That clearly does not have a signed project identifier, does it? But the code says it does. Why do you fail to start? I wonder if. Hold on. Restart it. Yeah, view entity changes. This is a signal alarm point. That should work. One thing at once. Let's focus. Another task to clutter the DVD. Let's verify. Punch database. Why? No. 10 streams. Thank you very much. I think you're one of the few people that's actually got a stream. Or shared a streak, rather. I know channel points really don't do anything on this channel. So absolute disgust. As I said, you were required to attend all streams. Well, it can, go into bed at normal time. But just saying. Disappointed in my friends, not showing up to my streams. Well, to be at a reasonable time for you, I would have had to cut my workday short. And yesterday of all days, that certainly wasn't happening. Why are you failing? Why are you so bad at this today? That sounds like your problem. It definitely was a me problem yesterday, yes. I'm having one of those days, if I'm very honest, of do I actually know what I'm doing anymore? Do I really have a clue what is actually happening? Because everything seems to not be working the way I expect it to be. I wasn't there yesterday because they sent a big piece of metal in the air. Yeah. Like right now, I'm like, do I just stop, call it quits today, and go make pancakes? Because this is clearly not what's happening. Right, that call is not that call. API tasks, that is that piece of code, but that is clearly not what's being sent in that payload. I've restarted it, so it's rebuilt. That's understandable. That shouldn't be there. That's only there if I'm attaching a task to a requirement, right? So that's that linking. That's understandable. Do I do this somewhere else then? Hold on. Hold on. Are there multiple calls to post to? Let's just make sure that I'm not duplicating something. Oh. One post and one put. There's a single post call at line 23. Okay, so here you go, Claude. Can you tell me how? So now I'm blaming the robot, by the way, because I need to understand this, and I don't have time to sit. I see the issue in add task dialog component when the project form control is disabled because the selected team has no projects. this.project.value is null. Then in task service, so assigned project identifier becomes unidentified and gets omitted from the JSON payload entirely. The task goes through with no project identifier. The problem is that the project field is only required when the team has projects. When your team has no projects, the field is disabled and null, so the task is created without a project. If I select a team, a task sent with only. So it's valid to have no team and no project, right? This is valid, right? This is a valid state. It's a task that's sat there waiting for to be assigned. The moment I select this, I can't create it because I need to select a project to which it associates. And this will get flipped. Project will drive which team it goes to via versus the team deciding which project. Clear picture now. The fix is in the dialog's assigned team value change handler. When a team is selected but has no projects, the project field should still be required. There we go. But it is. So it's about to change code that I've already spent 2 hours trying to get it to fix in the first place. I'm in one of those situations with this screen specifically where Claude has got itself into that cycle of, oh, I'll just change this. Oh, I shouldn't have changed that. Now I'll change this. Oh, I shouldn't have changed that. Now I'll change this. At one point, it removed this. So Angular has the form controls, and they're all form controls. But at one point, it determined that because form control conflicted with the disabled attribute of prime-ng, it just removed this from a form control and used the model binding for this one. So when it created it, it combined what was in the form plus the model bound value of this. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. So it undid all that. Here's a summary of changes. Change the assigned team value changes handle to always enable the project field and set it as required when any team is selected, not just teams with projects. When no team is selected, project is disabled with no validators. This means selecting a team with no projects makes the form invalid since project is required but has no options. There we go. That should work now. Okay, so if we do test, and we select rabbit, oh, they all have teams. Yeah, but they all have. Okay, so we do punch database. Nope. Try again. That makes sense. I don't know. So sadly this is fundamental to what I want to do next. Hello, Melanie. How you doing? How are you this morning? Um, if this piece wasn't so fundamental to what I need to do next, I'd move on to something else just to make sure that I'm not getting frustrated. But I can't do anything past this. But there's one thing I could do, which is put in delete task, which I'm going to need soon because I just created a bunch of noise in testing this. The more I use AI, the more I realize that what it's producing is not much different than us, and it just guesses faster than we can because it has more available to it straight away. But if you read out the output, it actually is exactly what we would do. Yeah, for morning time, I got my OBS bridge setting. Nice. Yeah. So because I'm expecting to send the project identifier and it's not doing it, it's assuming that the team has no project. So it's focusing all its effort on that. Yeah. Yeah. Um, um, I got really mad at memories when I realized it doesn't always use them to generate results. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, you don't get everything every time. Um, One of the developers I used to work with, he was, thank you for the follow, by the way, Clear. Welcome in. One of the developers I was working with, he's like, well, I added these rules, added these things, and the one time it checked them, and the second time it completely ignored the rules and did it its own way anyway. Like, because you have to kind of tell it what to follow. So you have to remember quite a bit as well. Now to get back on track, can you confirm? Right, I'm selecting team punch. Right, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much to learn, so much to take in here. Um, um, well, skill. So for me, I created a skill the other day for um, doing migration for me. So I put all the stuff that is building my migration scripts and um, um, running them into a skill which defines what is a migration and how it runs and how the script should do, which scripts it shouldn't touch, etc. And now I can do /migrate and it will run the migrations for me. Um, yeah, I'm not. So again, for me, the back end side of things is completely off limits to Claude. That is very important for me that I do that because that's something I'm learning. I am using Claude for kind of validating ideas and going through concepts, etc., and expanding my knowledge. But I'm not using it to do the coding. On the front end, the coding is being done using Claude, and that's meant to be a time saver. Although someone needs to remind it today to be a time saver. Okay. So what I've just done is I've prompted. I'm not bringing the prompt up every time. I leave it on screen. It gets messy, and it's just a bunch of text, right? So all I've said is, hey, when I give you input, you need to actually ask me what I'm, you know, you need to ask me what I'm actually doing before you assume that the code is wrong. Um, so now it's like, oh, what's happening? I said, well, I selected a team, and it's not. I selected a team and I selected a project, and this is a valid project. Um, when adding a task, the user selects team punch, which has projects and project database, but the post payload only contains assigned team identifier, right? Possible causes, fix, make binding explicit. Now I've given it the docs for Angular and I've given it the docs for PrimeNG, so it knows how the controls are there. It removed its guard code that it put in as an extra CYA. So while that's doing that, what I need to do is go to Teams, edit Rabbit, unselect that, save that. We need a team with no projects assigned. Implementation, backlog. Again, if you are new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what you're seeing, what I'm doing, please feel free. You do not have to necessarily know what is going on the screen. If you have questions, I'm happy to talk about what we're doing. I've been a dev for many years, over 20, and so this is not naivety, by the way. This is just experience plus experimentation. But virtual, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Enforcing ChatGPT to write tests in my preferred fashion, which is layered, validating mods and collaborators, the whole 9 yards. Catching basic exception types and ruining my day. Ouch. Here's what happened. Template add option value ID to the project, so it binds the project's ID string directly instead of the full object component. Change project form control type from project null to string null, and in save constructs this.project value is the project, so the services task project ID resolves correctly. Previous fixes remain, project is required when any team, right? So it's confirmed that it's left that rule in place. What am I building? So I'm building my project management tool, Kaizu. This is a tool aimed at trying to streamline requirement capture, planning, and implementation and delivery into a cleaner pipeline as such, making everything visible at every level. So you don't need to constantly, like a Jira. So yeah, that project management, not the like SAP or anything. So the concept being you have an initiative. Initiative is the idea, it's the discussion that needs to be had to determine whether this is a feasible plan or whether this is a feasible concept. And when you plan to do this, you commit to that and you can add deliverables to this. The deliverable is a set of requirements and acceptance criteria. So the project management team would handle this piece, or product managers. Once they're ready, they can move it to ready for review, and development teams can see what's ready for review by their team. So only reviewable items by the teams I'm assigned to, or the projects I'm assigned to, will appear in here. So if there's nothing there, there's nothing to plan. But as soon as that's ready, it is available. And now we can go in and plan it. Did you sell anything you created before? No. Would it be nice to? At some point, yeah, that would be kind of cool. But it's right now, this project is something that I want to build the way I see it. It is a complicated architecture behind the scenes. There's a lot of moving parts. This is the culmination of just years of tinkering with different technologies and wanting to learn more and verify ideas. So it won't let you link, bro. So Sadly, that is a limitation on my stream due to some fun attacks in the past. So do your services make HTTP requests to each other, or does everything just respond to Kafka entries? So as of right this second, everything responds to Kafka. You can see there's an API to tasks here. I'm about to introduce internal HTTP requests. So this needs this because organization management owns the projects, and tasks needs to get the next sequential identifier. So there is going to be an HTTP call here, which I'm not opposed to. That's not something I like, because obviously these two services now are kind of bound together. Like if organization management isn't available for whatever reason, tasks can't do its job. So then that cascades down, right? But small HTTP requests I'm fine with. Yeah. So yeah, there's going to be an internal API here, and it's only going to be internal, not because this is an API. This is at an API level, right? But there's an internal API that will provide the ability for this to say, "Hey, I need a sequential identifier for this project." So this will own those sequential identifiers, but that has to be on this side because the task has to get it through, and it's relevant to the task. So I'm exploring that idea more and more. Um, okay, so let's see if this gets any better now. Are you still broken? Are you going to track on behalf of on the API requests for tracing? You mean? So if the API is requested, then you know who's requesting. So I'd say on behalf of tasks. Is that a good practice? Yes. Yeah. And again, my entire philosophy here is I'm comfortable enough with this code, right? Again, I've developed this, and if you go back to YouTube videos from 2 years ago, or no, a year and a half ago, some of this looks very different. These boxes look very different because I've no worries, Canny. Thank you for the look, and have a great day. Um, I have not been afraid where things haven't quite fit properly or things haven't worked properly to rip them out and put them back together. All the pieces of these modules or these components, whatever we want to call them, they're not microservices because they're too large. They're much larger than a microservice. But these modules, the components in them can be shifted and moved around to different databases, and I've done that. I've moved things around. This diagram looked very different 2 years ago than it does now. So on the topic of time to get things right, that's not something I'm afraid of because I understand the code and I'm being confident with making changes. He says as he's struggling with why this won't work, but never mind. So we select a team. Right, so if we select Team Rabbit now, didn't refresh and make sure Team Rabbit doesn't have a project assigned. So select Team Rabbit. I bugged you about WebSockets in your UI. Not yet, no. Do you mean the ones that aren't working right this second? And I don't know why they're not working either. It does. So SignalR is hooked up to entity updates, and this pushes a single, hey, this entity changed to anyone subscribed in that tenant to that right now. Yeah. Yes. That's the intent. Yeah. So if you have the record open, it will push. Hey, by the way, this changed. Right now it reloads, but ultimately I probably want to put a reload pending rather than just make them flash. But yeah, it will do that when SignalR works, which is seemingly stopped working. So yeah, but I did last week. I went through the effort of making sure that I could open two tabs and I could click in one and edit it, and then the other one I go, oh, refresh, done. Um, it's a small message. It's just this ID change, by the way. So then the client can decide, oh, I need to go and do that, or it can mark it as stale, so that next time it actually gets to ask to load the record, it will go and refresh it first from the server. So I'm trying to learn more about those strategies on data refresh at the same time. So you still didn't sign a project. Right, HTMX is what you'll kind of do for partial updates. My kind. I haven't looked at HTMX yet. Um, Now the funny thing is, I actually earlier on, so I do actually have. Um, there is actually a GraphQL WebSocket connected here, an authenticated GraphQL WebSocket. I built authentication around the GraphQL WebSocket stuff. Um, so there is actually a GraphQL WebSocket here that does get updates, but those updates are coming from over here for um, from mass transit. So these have come through the service bus. These are like, by the way, something changed, and here's what changed about it. Those are more notifications, whereas these are constant changes. I'm going to remove that part and make another hub eventually. So there's an open notifications hub and use that technique. But that's actually working more reliably than this right this second. Um, I'm so stuck that regular old backend web dev is staying up there with all the front end nonsense. We do flip flop, right? We kind of rediscover techniques with every passing generation. Oh, well, it works better if we do it this way. Oh no, now let's move it down to the client. Oh no, let's move it back up to the server. You know, I'm from a time when we had dumb terminals and the internet was very rarely used in an office. Um, in Australia, flip flops are called thongs. So do you thong thong? That's quite the question to ask. Um, who does that? Maybe. Thank you very much for the Prime sub. appreciate that. Thank you for the Bezos books. Again, I'm trying to fight the frustration level right this second because things that have worked are not working, and multiple things that have worked are not working at once. And I don't know why or what I possibly changed between the end of the stream last night when the validation was working every time to starting up this morning where I didn't even shut the computer down. So um, I'm fighting that irritability of nothing's working. I'm giving up and going playing video games. Which might not do too well for the job today. Okay, right. Let's see if it did exactly what I asked it to do there. There we go. So I asked it to give me the serialized version of the form. So I can see the form values changing. Not quite how I ordered it, but it's fine. Stranhorn, don't fight it, give in, write the test. There's no test I can write for this, that's the problem. I don't know what test to write. Okay, I'll go with I don't know what test to write here or how I would even approach them. That's where we're stuck there, not there are no tests. So we can see we're updating, we select a team, we select team punch, there's our team, we have projects available, we select the project now, and the project populates. Okay, so now oh, why aren't you working? Okay. Okay. I don't even have enough context to tell us, Mac. So, okay, so the Signal R stuff, Signal R is up and running. Signal R is not negotiating. I'm getting a 502 bad gateway. I don't know why that's happening now. I haven't changed the thing. So I don't know what test to necessarily write there. The task's not working was working last night. The validation's not working. That was working when I ended the stream. So again, I don't know what test to write because the only test level I can go to is integration testing. But I don't know how to even start getting integration tests in place at that point, right? I didn't commit because I was still working on it when I left the stream. I was still validating the actual scenario I was trying to get to. The code didn't change, so there was no commit. So that's why I'm confused. I started again and didn't run, so that's going to happen. That's going to happen. So I pasted this content in, right? And the response is the form data is perfect. So the problem isn't in the form at all, it's in the service. The service sends task.project ID, but now task.project is ID, which should work. Wait, let me reread the service. The issue Might be that assigned project identifier is being sent as undefined because of how JSON stringify handles it. But if task.project.id has a value, it shouldn't be undefined. Actually, let me check if the dev server is actually serving the latest build. The form shows the fix is working, but the post payload still doesn't include it. This could mean the service code hasn't been picked up yet, or there's something else stripping it. Let me look at the service one more time. Could there be a second add method or an interceptor? No, I asked you that earlier on. The code path looks correct. The form captures the values. Save builds a project. The service reads task.project.id. This should work. Can you hit create with the debug still? Um, Now it's asking me to hard refresh as well, by the way. So it's doing all the regular debugging steps of any good. Oh, now it's asked me to. You're right. There is no .id because project is the value. Wait, look at the store's add method. It receives the task, calls service add task. The service on line 28 reads task.project ID. Hard reload. So the one thing I have learned is that when it's trying to tell me to do stuff, even if I think I know better, the best thing I can do is just follow what it's asking me to do. So I can say, yeah, I did that. Because if I'm lying and I'm missing pieces, it's not going to help the context very much because I'm missing doing those things. Yeah, that is a good side effect. So we select the team, punch, right? So we've got an assigned team, and then we select the project. The project, again, it kept saying project.id, but I'm like, well, hold on, I'm just sending project as a value now. You've created that. So we look at console. Still missing. Uh, still missing all this. But no, it should be there. No, it really should be there. Let me add a login save right now. So the first thing I'm going to do once all this code is committed and working is introduce the delete button for a task. And I'm going to have to put a permission around that. Let's hope that doesn't break. I'll refresh, try again. Okay. Task. Another task. Another test. Why are you not working? Punch. Database. No. Still broke. Still wants its content. Now, I could go and look at the code and I can try and figure this out, but that's not going to help me continue to use the robots. And also, um, I kind of want it to have the context of what I'm doing here, so that I can, if there's a rule to come out of this, I can place the rule in there. So at this point, I'm just doubling down on using the robot, even though I'm pretty sure at this point I could go and look at the code and identify. You look so sad. It's this is the this is the quagmire I was trying not to get stuck in. This is why I'm using Claude for the front end, because I don't want to do this stuff because it frustrates and bores me. And this is the stuff that makes me say, nah, I'm going to go play games, right? I've been doing really well and keeping focus because Claude in general has been doing a pretty good job of not getting into this situation. Um, and yeah, I'm learning, right? I'm growing and understanding how to use these tools more effectively and all that comes with it. But this is why Kaizu looks like it does now, because they used AI to be able to build this quickly while still maintaining all the backend stuff. I still want to work on the backend stuff. That's where I have the most fun. This bores me, and I'm in that state right now. So it did it. It figured it out. By Jove, I think it got it. Yes. Oh my goodness me. Just in time. Okay, so um, let's remove. Ah, let's remove all the debugging stuff now. So what have I achieved today? I got a button to click a form to show us to actually assign a field to the right thing. Um, Again, what I'm doing here, and I'm gonna have to flip this later on. Mongolo, hello, how are you doing? Thank you for the follow. Later on, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm going to flip those project and team associations, right? So the project can be assigned, and that is enough to give it the identifier. The team can come later, right? That's the reality of this logic. I'm probably, as I've been going through this, at least I've had that reflection time to think about what actually needs to happen here, and I need to flip my rules. Right now, I use the team to select the project, but I should select the project, and the team can come later. The teams that are eligible to put on to assign this task to because of the project. So there's a bit of an ordering problem I have there. Um, but I'm not brave enough to try that right this second. The fact that I can collect those two pieces of information is all I really care about right this second, because now with an assigned project identifier, what I can do is I can work towards implementing this piece, which is organization management owns the project. Organization management owns everything that's kind of, you know, organization level data, like um, again, like the settings projects. So this is organization level. So these prefixes, however we want to say them, are going to be, so your project, your identifier in your task will be, BE001 or whatever, BE-1. I'll probably do it that way rather than make it look like it's padded out, so that that number can just continue on. Um, Teams exist in organization management, they don't exist in tenant management. Users exist in tenant management. Subscriptions exist in tenant management, right? Some of these things are platform wide, and some of these things are your specific organization wide. That's the differentiation there. Oh man. Well, at least I finished on some success. The validation not working is still a frustration, but I can tackle that later. That's not a major issue. We can get to cleaning this up now and trying to get some of these things tightened up. And on the topic of testing, I do want to get to developing integration and uh, um, brain. Can't think of word. I do want to get to integration tests at some point soon. Um, that will allow me to validate some of these things before I actually before I have to build and run and test it that way. UI tests, going through doing that, that's a bit of a further stretch, right? Claude actually does integrate pretty well with Playwright, so I could actually build a set of UI tests pretty comprehensively in a relatively short time using the AI. And that's probably how I'll go at that. But from an integration test perspective, that's still on the back end side, and I need to figure out how I want to spool these up, create their databases. I do use test containers in some of the side pieces of this. So if you've not been in here before, there are this is not open source. However, that's interesting to show you what branch it's on. However, some of the libraries that I have built to support this, um, Vexcat to test and debug for you. Vexcat's useless. It just keeps saying nasty things. Um, um, yeah, some of these libraries are around the outside, the outbot stuff, the extensions for Kafka, the sagas to make my life easier. Um, those are um, those are all open source and they're on my GitHub, which I believe is linked in the cards below. But anyway, fortunately, I now need to go and make pancakes with a little bit of peanut butter to make up for feeling like I was a disaster as a developer today. So, luckily, Stony started his stream up. Good job, Stony. So, we're going to go over there. I will be back on Monday. No, I won't be back on Monday. I will not be streaming on Monday because I am not in the state. So, my next stream will be next Wednesday evening. Yeah, I go away on Sunday. So, um, yeah, it's kind of good timing, right? um, so yeah, I'll be back next Wednesday, and I will see how much there progress I can make on this in the meantime. So, oh, it's work. it's 2 days of work. So, enjoy. I'll be meeting my new team, so that's a good thing, right? There's a definite positive there. Get to meet my team I've been working with for the past 3 months, and yeah. So, thank you very much for coming hanging out with me. Thank you very much for um, the chat. I know it's ridiculous. So we'll go raid Stony. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I will see you soon. And if you celebrate, happy Easter. So thank you. No.